Welcome back to the channel, Hobby1 Kenobi here. Today we're kicking off the build of the Hasegawa 1/48 scale A-4E Skyhawk. This classic kit has been around for decades and it's one I've always had a great time working on. While Hobby Boss has released updated versions of this aircraft, I wanted to revisit this Hasegawa kit and give it another go. We start, as always, by carefully clipping the parts from the sprue, cleaning them up, and prepping the cockpit for paint. I airbrush the interior color, which is a mix of Tamiya paints. Once the paint is dry, I move on to hand painting the cockpit control panels in black. A quick tip here, when painting, it's crucial to keep your paint thin. This gives you much more control over how the paint moves. You might think that thicker paint would work better, but that's just not the case. Thin layers give you more precision and make any touch-ups easier. If the lines aren't perfect, or if the brush slips, I'll just go back over the area with the cockpit color to correct it. Going back and forth between the two colors helps me achieve nice, sharp lines. Once the panels are painted, I turn my attention to the control panel itself. Using dry brushing, I apply white to the dials in both white and light gray to highlight the switches on the side control panels. Next, I spray a gloss coat to seal everything in place before applying a wash. The wash is a mixture of my go-to Winsor & Newton Artist oils, thinned with terpenoid to keep the pigments flowing smoothly. While the wash dries, I turn my focus to the ejection seat. I use Vallejo model color paints to bring out the various colors of the seat. This is a kit part, but the buckles are scratch built using Annie's buckle sets and some Tamiya tape. Once it's all done, the seat gets a gloss coat and a wash just like the cockpit. After everything's had time to dry, I use a Q-tip and a soft brush to remove any excess wash, giving the parts a nice, subtle, weathered effect. Now that the wash has dried, I apply a flat coat to all the parts. Then I dry brush some lighter colors over the raised areas of the side panels to really bring out the detail. With the cockpit details looking good, I move on to the engine fan blades. After they're painted, I glue them into place in the fuselage using Tamiya extra thin cement. At the same time, I attach the cockpit tub to the fuselage, carefully joining the two halves of the aircraft. Once the fuselage is sealed up, I start working on seam removal. On the real aircraft, there's a very faint seam at the edge of the engine takes. However, it's not in the same spot as the seam left by the intake parts in this kit. To fix this, I press the parts together firmly with Tamiya extra thin to melt the plastic and force the plastic into the seam. Another incorrect seam is found at the tail of the aircraft. For this one, I fill the seam with CA glue, then use a sharp knife blade to carefully scrape away the excess. After that, I smooth it all out with sanding sticks. Inside the engine nozzle, I fill a seam with Tamiya gray putty and sand it down. While working on the engine intakes, I noticed a small notch from poor fitting parts. To correct this, I build up the missing area using CA glue and an accelerator, known as zip kicker. I prefer transferring the zip kicker into a glass bottle and applying it drop by drop from a toothpick. This gives me much more control and saves the product from being wasted. Once the excess glue is sanded down, I airbrush the intake interiors white and glue them to the fuselage. And here's where we are so far. I hope that you've enjoyed following along with this first part of the build. If you have, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.